Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs de internet. Jan Michael Ichi. Hopefully I didn't fuck that up too bad. I'm trying. Anyways, for the last few years, we've had a very good understanding of what Game of the Year for the individual awards festivals was going to be. I mean, we got Baldur's Gate 3, we had Elden Ring, we had It Takes Two, Astrobot. Like, we already knew these would go on to win that coveted trophy. And this year is really no different with Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So instead of tackle this review with a very obvious, will it win the award, which we know it will, how about I go at it from an angle of why it's going to win the award. That way I can shake things up a little bit. Let's go ahead and dive on in and see why this game is so beloved and is for sure going to win that coveted trophy.
You should never have come. You're only going to make things worse for everyone.
No. She chose to come. I didn't make the rules between you two.
You're fighting to change things.
Right from the get-go, Clair Obscur sucks you right into its world with its beautiful art direction that's full of intrigue and mystery. We see the Eiffel Tower in those opening shots. So, okay, this takes place in France, right? But wait, the tower itself is looking like it needs some Viagra. So I guess that means it's set in a sort of post-apocalyptic world. From there, it continues to enrapture you with its beauty, even when it turns downright horrifying. People vanishing into puffs of flowers, battles that are a feast for the eyes in both execution of the animation as well as the background shots during these moments, and level designs that are mesmerizing to look at. If anything, the early parts of the adventure are just so mesmerizing in its art style that the latter half of the game almost doesn't compare. For me, the highest point here is when you go to Flying Waters, an area that essentially puts you underwater at the bottom of the ocean, though not really. The characters are still able to breathe just fine, but you see these creatures like floating above you, swimming through the air, almost like they're flying, and you see these sunken ships all around you. It is fantastic level design, and the game never really captures that magic again. That is not to say the rest of the level designs, the art direction are bad. They're not. They're still very, very good. It's just comparing it to like the Flying Waters or the introduction to the world with the Eiffel Tower and the city, it just doesn't hit that same high again. But this is a complaint that really wouldn't come about if it didn't already exceed the expectations set at the very beginning. So in some ways it is sort of a double-edged sword. It's just, you know, you have to take those things into account when things just don't stack up quite as much for the for the latter half than they were for the beginning. Clair Obscur has a fantastic cast of characters. You can easily make the argument for why any single one of them should be nominated for character in any award show. For the DICE Awards, they decided to go with two in particular, Eske and Maëlle, which is a fantastic pick because these two characters are a great blend of what the game does so well. Eske is more of a goofball. While he can have some serious moments, you know you're in for a laugh, some witty banter, and a cute design that just makes you want to give him a big old hug, which the character will all be too willing to accept. He has some of the best moments during your adventure, most notably his rivalry with his neighbor, Francois, which was a great introduction to both of these characters. In a game as heavy as Clair Obscur is, you need moments of levity to cut the tension, which is exactly what Eske does so well. Meanwhile, Maëlle is the complete opposite. Sure, she can have her silly moments, but her story is just so dark that you're almost putting yourself in her shoes going, what the hell would I do in that situation? And I think you can understand why she's not this kind of silly, happy-go-lucky character like Eske is. Honestly, the game even gives you final say into what her reaction and choices are going to be. And there are no easy answers here. This could have easily have fallen apart if Maëlle was unlikable or just completely naive in just her views of the world, but you always understand where she's coming from. Even when she's making horrible decisions, you get it. You understand. She's gone through so much that, you know, just coming out of it completely sane would have been a miracle in and of itself. So I give complete kudos for her character arc, what she goes through, and who she ultimately becomes by the end. Regardless of which of these two characters you gravitate more towards, they're both excellent and are only a small part of the overall cast. Heck, you may find some of the other characters more compelling or interesting. I mean, it's very much a possibility with how great each of them are written and how they are portrayed by their voice actors. And to give credit where it's due, Eske is voiced by Maxence Cazarola, a primarily French actor who also assisted with motion capture of some of the other characters in the game as well. Maëlle was voiced by Jennifer English, who most recently also played Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3, another great performance. Both are exceptional in their role here, and while I personally gravitate more towards Maëlle, either would be a fantastic win in this category. In terms of its world building and pacing, Clair Obscur also does a stellar job of both, creating enough mystery and intrigue to keep you invested in the long run. Though I will admit there was a moment where I felt we probably should have started unraveling some of those mysteries earlier than when the game ultimately did, but once the revelations start to be discovered, it continues to reveal its truths in great momentum, and it doesn't let up until the end. It culminates in a finale that is going to leave an impact no matter which direction you decide to go with. Honestly, my mind still wanders to some of the more impactful moments of the game from time to time, and I'm itching to introduce it to others so I can see their reaction to those same events. If there is one complaint that I have, it's in a certain character's development. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail as it would be a very big spoiler to do so, so to keep things as vague as I can, this character was built up greatly during the first half of the adventure. They were spoken about, they were built up, they were pretty much the center of the entire experience, and then towards the second half, they're kind of forgotten about. Now, part of that makes sense with the events that transpire, but with how much they were built up in the first half, I thought they would continue to be a presence in the second half. And even the finale, which they are very much a part of, it's almost like they're overlooked. Like, the focus has to be on this other thing, which again makes complete sense in how the story progresses, but I can't help but feel a little bit sad with how that whole thing ended up going, essentially where his character ended up. So yeah, that's kind of a complaint that I have, but again, this is really minor in the grand scheme of things. You understand why the events ended up going the way they did, so the choices there make sense. Again, I just couldn't help but be sad, and I wanted a little bit more from that character because of how much they were built in that first half. Now, if there is one aspect of Clair Obscur that I think we can all agree on, even the haters, it's that all of the music tracks here are complete and total bangers. The soundtrack was even a massive success, topping Billboard charts and earning major awards. There's even a concert tour planned in France in 2026 with talks of international showings in the future. Composer Lorien Testard was a complete unknown before working on the soundtrack, only having done minor work here and there, as well as contributing music to YouTube videos. Lorien was actually discovered on SoundCloud. He was a guitar teacher who made video game music in his spare time, and suffice to say, he's definitely placed himself on the map with this work, and I'm sure there's going to be many people looking forward to seeing what he does next. If you have not heard the soundtrack, well, first and foremost, I am playing whatever I can of it during this review, And if it sounds fascinating to you, I definitely say check out the full soundtrack. There are some amazing scores in there, including that last boss battle that's just so epic. Like, if you don't get pumped up just listening to that, I mean, I don't know what to say. You got no soul. You're just like an unamused person. Like, I don't know what you're doing here. Why are you watching me? You're probably bored just hearing me talk. Bottom line, the score, fantastic. That's the number one element I think we can all come to 100% agreement on. The premise in Clair Obscur is incredibly fascinating. After an event called the Fracture occurs, where the people of the city of Lumiere are cut off from the rest of the continent, an entity known as the Paintress shows up and paints a number on a mountain off in the distance. Anyone of that age or above disappears in what becomes a yearly tradition called the Gourmage. In a bid to stop the Paintress from continuing to paint more numbers and killing them, an expedition is sent to the mainland to hunt her down. Of course, that's easier said than done, as the mainland is incredibly dangerous, and many don't survive the trek or run out of time before the next set of numbers are painted, starting the process all over again. Fast forward to current day, where you are part of Expedition 33, which means everyone in the expedition is either 33 years of age or younger. And that's not a lot of capable fighters. In fact, a lot of people in the city think that this is a pointless expedition, as it's throwing lives away that could be better spent living out what little time they have left, starting a family, what have you. But regardless, the expedition still moves forward, and they're on a trek to finally put an end to the Paintress. And from there, the story takes many twists and turns that would be an injustice if I were to give it away. Just know that you'll meet many unique and interesting characters, face off against some horrific entities, journey through a mystical land, and uncover truths that even I didn't see coming. It's fantastic, pure and simple, and if you're a fan of epic tales, then you're gonna be a fan of this. Battles in Clair Obscur reminded me very much of the early Paper Mario game series, just more to an extreme. You're able to inflict additional damage by hitting the button prompts on screen. You can dodge enemy attacks. You can actually attack back if you hit a button prompt that has a smaller window when the enemy attacks. You jump over certain attacks. These enemies have incredibly difficult to discern patterns, especially the later on you get to the game. Some of these characters can hit a character multiple times. They can hit multiple characters multiple times. It can be a flip-flop where sometimes they'll only hit one, then it goes to everybody, then it goes to one. It gets insane. And again, the later on you get into the game itself, the more chaotic it gets, because the movements of it are just so random it feels that you really need to pay attention if you're going to make it through alive. Now that's barely scratching the surface, mind you. There's a lot more to it than that, with each character having their own specific fighting style, such as one who can steal enemy skills and another that combines light and dark attacks. If you're playing on the easiest of difficulties, you could probably get through it without having to learn the nuances of each character's mechanics. As long as you dodge and attack at the right moments, you should get through just fine. Anything past that, however, and you'll need to leverage everything the game shows you to truly have a chance at the latter half of the game. There are some battles which are truly going to test your skills, so if you're not looking to dive deep into its combat, you're probably best off just switching to easy mode and going that route. Though, please don't expect easy to completely hold your hand either. If you're not careful, you will get stomped. There's honestly not a lot of negatives I can say about the game. I guess I could include the whole AI debacle, where we're not sure if they did or did not use AI in the final product, but as we're probably never going to know the answer to that, I'm really not going to hold it against them. Like, if you cannot look past that, if you're just so sure they did, then obviously, do what you feel is right. But as we don't know, again, just going to stick to the game itself, and the game itself is fantastic. Like, it deserves all of the praise it's received thus far. The story's amazing, the characters are fantastic, the world is amazingly crafted. There's just so much thought, there's so much effort that went into this title. Is it a perfect game? No, you know me, I don't believe in a perfect game, a perfect experience. But the closest to perfection you can get is when you can look past the faults that the game does have and just completely immerse yourself in the experience. And that's exactly what I and so many other people did with Clair Obscur. Because of all that and more, I give Clair Obscur Expedition 33 a 5 out of 5 with a very strong recommendation to buy it. It's an expedition well worth embarking on, and one that will leave its mark on you. If for some reason you've skipped out on it, you need to correct that immediately and just give it an honest shot. I admit, it won't be for everyone, but most things are not always that black and white. So play it for yourself and find out what side you land on.
Who are you?
I know it seems absurd to offer oblivion as recompense, but
She'll never paint again.
And that's all I got for you guys for today. I'm sure this is the review that most of you were waiting for. This is the game that's ultimately going to win Game of the Year. I'm very, very confident with that one. The rest are just the rest, I'm sure. But I will admit that I do like a bit of competition. Just knowing who the winner is in advance is quite boring. And so, who knows, maybe we'll get something like the year that Baldur's Gate 3 won, where we knew it was going to win, but then Marvel Spider-Man 2 started taking almost all of the prizes, and you started thinking to yourself, holy shit, could we get like an upset? Is Marvel Spider-Man 2 going to win Game of the Year? Like, that definitely had me on edge. And there's a chance that could happen again this year. So don't go anywhere just yet, ladies and gentlemen. I would definitely say come back for the next two reviews, as one of those may hold the answer to who is in second place. Or maybe first, depending how things turn out. Until tomorrow, everybody, like always, stay safe out there and have a good one.